What makes less sense is how you end up being the starting point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers the next season.
No, it makes perfect sense when I explain it to you like this. When I was in Detroit, who was I playing behind?
Chauncey Billups.
When I was in Phoenix, who was I playing behind?
Steve Nash.
When I got to L.A., who was there?
I don't even remember.
Exactly. So think about
Seriously, who was there?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
They brought in Aaron McKee from the Philadelphia 76ers to be their starting point guard. Because remember, Phil Jackson liked big guards, and he was a 6'5" point guard.
That's right.
Who could come down and run the triangle offense.
Yep.
He was the big name.
Man.
They gave him all that money to come there to be the starting point guard.
That's right.
And I was a hungry smush in Detroit, but getting no minutes behind Chauncey Billups. I was a hungry smush behind Steve Nash in Phoenix. Those guys deserved the playing time. I got it. I was learning while I was there. When I got to L.A., it was just Aaron McKee. Not to say he wasn't a good player,
but at this point in his career,
he was on his.
Yes, you're sensing this could be my job.
Yes, and I went in. I went in there with the same mentality I went in Detroit, in Cleveland, and Phoenix. I'm gonna work to earn my spot.
So Phil Jackson is the coach.
Yes.
Kobe Bryant is a superstar, of course. How do you learn that Smush Parker is now going to be the starting point guard of the most marquee franchise in the NBA?
So they never told me I was going to be the starting point guard. I just showed up every day and I wasn't fired. No, literally, I went there to training camp. I, fought and clawed my way through training camp, earned my way on a non-guaranteed contract again.
Yep.
2 years this time. I guess I played better than most.
Sure.
Matter of fact, I won't be humble now. I did play better than most in the preseason. And when the start of the season came, I was still on the team. I didn't get fired, so I showed up the next day. First game of the season. Phil Jackson walks into the locker room maybe 10 minutes before the game, says, "Smush, you're starting tonight," and walks out of the locker room. And that's how I found out I was starting.
That was it.
That was the first time I didn't start in the preseason. I didn't start in training camp. I was never on the first team in the practice squad.
So just for context here, okay, so Phil Jackson, of course, one of the greatest coaches of all time, the Zen Master, Hall of Famer, Master Motivator. Mm-hmm. What was your relationship like with him before then?
Never had a conversation with him. We had training camp in Hawaii, and I want to say training camp is about a month and a half, I was everything but Smush. He never called me Smush. He always called me Smack, Smooch, Smuck, everything but Smush. Hey, Smack, get back on defense. Hey, Smack, run the triangle. Smooch, everything but Smush. And it was just hazing. I guess right. I need to earn his respect like everybody else.
Testing you.
Yes.
For people who don't know NBA history, this is after Shaquille O'Neal has gone. Mm-hmm. This is Kobe Bryant in I'm about to win MVP mode. Mm-hmm. This is Kobe Bryant without Shaq going on to, that first year, man, he averaged 35 a game, 41 minutes a night. For Phil Jackson, this is before Pau Gasol gets there. Yep. And so my understanding of your time in LA, of course, really only clicked in after you were gone. Because this is, and when you Google Smush Parker, what comes up 99% of the time?
The feud I had with Kobe, unfortunately.
But it's an incredibly rich text that I want to sort of unpack with you because I don't feel like it's been presented in a way that totally makes sense.
It doesn't.
Because the way that it comes into the public view, this is in October 2012. This is years after you're out of LA. Mm-hmm. And he says a quote that I'm sure
I've heard.
You are unfortunately being reminded of by me, the millionth person. He says this. He's talking to Steve Nash, by the way. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is him telling the story. I tell Steve, you won MVP, but I was playing with Smush Parker. He's playing with Leandro Barbosa. I'm playing with Smush and Kwame Brown. My goodness, Smush Parker was the worst. He shouldn't have been in the NBA, but we were too cheap to pay for a point guard we let him walk on. And that's the quote. And when he says it, of course, there's like, ha, 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 it's funny. Like, he's, whatever, talking trash on, like, his old teammates. Like, that's amusing to people. But at the same time, it was like, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
What is your understanding of what sparked his comment, seemingly out of nowhere?
So that spark has been there for years. It was, something that, a snowball that I created. I did a small, little interview outside of West 4th Street.
At the cage?
At the cage, somebody was holding a recorder and a little camera. And this was, I want to say, the summer of 2007, my years after L.A.
Mm.
And they asked me about, my time in the NBA, my time as a Laker, my time playing with Kobe Bryant. And when I got to answering about my time with Kobe Bryant, as normal, I answered it honestly. My truth, what my experiences were. And I said it was an overrated experience.
Playing with Kobe
Bryant. And now everybody who's a fan of Kobe's, including the interviewer, was like, explain, what do you mean by overrated experience? And because I have inside information, because I dealt with this man for 2 seasons and my locker was here, his locker was here for
right
2
next
seasons.
To him.
Like, I watched this man put on his shoes every day for work.
Right.
He watched me put on my shoes every day for work.
Starting backcourt together, you two.
Yeah. So I was speaking from my experience. It was overrated because the man never spoke to me.
Mm.
I wasn't the 12th man on the bench. I wasn't the call-up from the G League who was trying to just fill a roster spot. I started with this man. I was his coworker. Like, we shared a cubicle side by side. How do you do that for 2 seasons and never hold a conversation, never what's up, good morning, do you need anything? Can I get you a cup of coffee? How's the family? Nothing. 2 seasons, side by side.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. My next comments hurt his feelings, and therefore he had to retaliate.
So what did you say next?
I shared a story about how I did try to talk to him. I'm like, I'm the starting point guard with him in the backcourt. Let me just try to talk to him. And I, said, did you happen to catch the football game last night? And he looked at me, honestly, and said, you can't talk to me. You need more accolades under your belt before you come talk to me. And he was dead serious.
Mm.
I'm not even going to get to, how that's disrespectful as a man to man, just
self-evident.
Saying, yeah. So that set the tone, never spoke to him again or tried to for 2 years as the starting point guard.
And by the way, you had your best years
in LA. Yes.
Right? It's not.
And anybody who watches those Laker years saw that we worked well together. There was a chemistry.
So when I say that you had your best years, I'm not saying, you got to know Smush Parker was an all-star. I'm saying that Smush Parker playing off of Kobe Bryant, scoring 35 a night, was getting steals. Mm-hmm. You were moving the ball. Mm-hmm. You were running the triangle as best you could with a guy who didn't want to
average double-digit points with 6 or 7 shots per game.
And to your point, right, you had some big moments.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you jammed it on Andre Miller at one point.
Yes, good job. Lakers have the numbers. So 3-on-2. Smush with the right hand. Smush Parker's run to the rack.
You had that big steal on Steve Nash in that series against the Suns.
They'd love to get it into Nash's hands, and they do. Ball knocked away, stolen by Parker. Here comes George to Kobe Bryant. Bryant inside. It's good. It's good. Tie game. 7/10 of a second remaining.
In retrospect, it was the back and forth that carried on.
No, it was this comment that actually I'm sure set those wheels in motion. I said, the problems in LA end and start with Kobe Bryant.
Mm.
And I felt that way because as the leader, as the captain, as the star of the team, if you don't communicate with your teammates, how is a team supposed to be successful?
And so this is where it gets to 2012 now, and Kobe is talking about how...
Yeah, I gave him his little 30 minutes of fame again, man. It's all good.
How's the shoulder?
I wish him the best of luck. He's playing in China right now, right?
He's going over there in a couple months.
Wish him the best of luck, man. Maybe he'll get back to the NBA one day. I can see what it's like up close.
There's the interview that he gave where he's being asked, You know who was the second leading scorer when you scored 81?
I have no
Smush
idea.
Parker. Oh, that's so good. So,
Where you at, 4?
It's a jab.
It's very clear. And then in 2019, he's talking about how, if he's being triple teamed.
Well, it depends who's on the team. If I got Smush Parker lagging behind me to shoot,
you'll shoot
you
every
best
time.
believe I'm shooting that motherfucking shots. If I got D Fish back there, I'm kicking that shit back. 100%.
Still.
And I'm just like,
2019.
and so the thing about your name, it almost was a verb for what he was trying to do to you. He was like trying to smush you like a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And it became this joke.
And it became a joke that everybody used. But if you check the numbers, just check the numbers. I was the third leading scorer of that team, third in scoring behind him and Lamar Odom, which I should have been as a walk-on player.
What does it mean to be the other guy in the picture?
Mm-hmm.
The other guy without the job security, the other guy who's scrapping for everything, the other guy who is trying to prove himself at a point at which he's encountering what one of the greatest superstars of all time considers to be leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like this is, I think even Kobe later on, not ever specifically addressing you, right? Because he never said anything about you that was positive on the record. But what he did say, I think referring to this time was like, that wasn't him at his best as a leader.
People didn't realize, the teammate that Kobe really was. One thing that Kobe was a master of was putting on a face for, the world to see.
Yes, as the ultimate.
And I don't want to. I'm not talking negatively about the deceased.
Of course, and I think something I want to make clear here too is that at a certain point, when you are a historical figure like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan or Will Chamberlain or Kareem or whoever it is, right? I believe that we should talk honestly because we look to those people as role models.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone is like, this is what it was like behind the scenes, I actually think it's important for us to not mythologize beyond what is deserved, even as we are diplomatic and respectful.
And again, I'm not taking away from the player Kobe was.
No. Indisputably an all-time great.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest.
No question.
One of the most decorated athletes to ever play this game. And I was there.
I mean, you just rarely hear someone be like, it was overrated because, and fill in all of the blanks in a way that'll make people be like, no, you're wrong. I don't believe you. People don't believe you, Smush.
Mm-hmm.
They don't.
As players who play with him, we have our own conversations and our own stories, and we share the same experiences. But when we get on this right here, when we get in front of the cameras, they say something different, or they don't speak on it at all.
Right.
I've been the only one.
Literally the only person who's been brave enough. And this is, of course, before he passed and then after he passed. And I just want to be I want to be sensitive to this insofar as the tributes, the love. I am not saying do not feel that way if that was your favorite player. And he was, of course, a tremendous player.
Yeah, of course.
Did you ever try to reach out to Kobe Bryant?
I did try to reach out to Kobe Bryant. It was after the 2012 comments, but before everything else, 2019.
So this is in the middle of it.
I started to attend this church led by Pastor Louis Stryker Jr., and he's the hugest Laker fan. Hugest Laker fan.
Which means he's a Kobe fan.
I thought it might be a cool thing to do to reach out to Kobe to see if I could get him to sign a basketball and maybe a picture to present to my pastor for Christmas. So I wrote Kobe a letter, and I don't remember word for word.
Paraphrasing,
Yeah, paraphrasing. But what I do remember saying was, young mind, young thoughts, young words, and I said, I'm sorry for what I, said in the past. And the letter went unanswered. I didn't get a response back from Kobe, but he did sign the basketball. He did sign the picture.